Welcome on in to Let's Talk. Today we are previewing Cincinnati at Utah. Utah coming off a dominant win over Colorado, and Cincinnati coming off a bye week, I believe. Didn't they have a bye last week?
Uh, I believe so. No, they played Baylor last week.
Oh no, oh right, yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, college game day coming to town as well. So pretty big game for the Utes. What are your just initial thoughts about Cincinnati? I think first time playing them in a while, I think.
I think they were saying this is the first matchup ever, Utah versus Cincinnati.
Really?
Yeah, this is the
Yeah,
first
that's
time
crazy.
Utah will have ever played them. But yeah, obviously one of the hottest teams in college football. They've won 7 straight after losing in week 1 to Nebraska. Honestly, I thought Cincinnati looked like the better team. I was even saying that week 1. I know it sounds like revisionist history, but I truly thought Cincinnati looked better than Nebraska. But yeah, hot team. Baron Morton's been playing unbelievably well. I believe he has 27 touchdowns to 1 interception, 27 total touchdowns, which is just unbelievable.
That is incredible.
So, yeah, I can see why college game day came out.
At the end of that Nebraska game too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I look like really good chance that they could have been 8-0 at this point of the year. Sitting at 7-1. Obviously the margins are thin, but I mean, they're coming in with a ton of momentum, 7 straight wins. Let's start with Cincinnati's defense versus Utah's offense. I think that as far as Cincinnati's sides of the ball go, their offense is ahead of the defense. The defense, I don't think has been terrible though. I think it's been pretty good. Something that sticks out to me is potentially their run defense against Utah's run offense. Utah this year, when they've been able to run on teams, have just completely slaughtered them. And when the run game has gotten off track, even 15%, that's when they've struggled.
Yeah, stopping Utah's offense is all about getting them in those second and third and long. The offense kind of completely falls apart. One big player that I'm going to be interested to see how Utah handles is defensive tackle Dante Corleone for Cincinnati. They call him the Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's only around 6 foot, 6'1". Heavy dude, though, obviously well into the 300s, very athletic. I think that Utah has been running more of an outside zone and speed run to the sidelines recently, so I don't know if he'll play a huge role in this game, but that's something I would definitely look out for, especially on something like, a QB run where Devin might fake that jet sweep and try and go up the middle. I'd definitely be watching for Corleone to affect the game and those type of plays.
For sure, and especially in the pass game as well. I feel like when we've seen pressure come on Utah, which hasn't been a ton, it has come up the middle, because while the middle of the unit is really good and it's an elite unit overall, it is a little behind the tackle spot, I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Something that I think is interesting is their defensive success rate is only 83rd in the country, which is not exactly where you want it to be as far as, the success rate. And they're 99th on defensive success rate on dropbacks, which is interesting. Teams have been able to hurt them through the air as well as on the ground. Dampier obviously coming in with some injury concerns. How do you think Utah's throw game looks in this game?
I mean, I really think that's the big question. The DB and linebacker play of Cincinnati is going to be huge for them in this one. I was looking at some of their stats, and I think their leading tackler far and away is one of their linebackers. I forget his exact name. But him having that many tackles lets me know, first off, he's a good player. Second off, they're not getting a lot of stops right at the line of scrimmage, as you kind of illustrated by showing that success rate. So I think this game truly is going to be about how do they play around the line of scrimmage? And I know you were asking about the DBs, but how do the DBs play around the line of scrimmage on those screens, on those jet sweeps? I truly think if Cincinnati can't stop that, Utah is just going to follow the same formula they've won in all of their wins, which is just insane running on first and second down, and it just makes third and fourth down super easy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Utah is second in EPA on third and fourth down, simply because they're not really having to convert third and long, hardly at all. They really are super on schedule. Another thing that's interesting is Cincinnati's defense actually is elite in the field position game, flipping the field for the offense. That's something that Utah, honestly, I feel like we've struggled with this year. We've either been scoring or we've been going 3 and out, honestly. We haven't really been able to flip the field. I do wonder if that's something to worry about, for Cincinnati's defense, if they're able to, make us do really, really long drives because we can't really rely on explosive plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game, the book is out a little bit on how to beat Utah's offense. Not every team can do it, but if you can shut down the runs and the passes around the line of scrimmage, I don't think Utah's shown that they can consistently move the ball if you're able to shut down right around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, they really haven't had like a deep threat emerge. Like they've hit on a couple deep shots, but like comparatively to even what Dampier and Beck did at New Mexico last year, like the rate has fallen off. To me, I think that's like obvious coaching. Like I think Whittingham is just deathly afraid of turnovers, doesn't want to put the ball in harm's way, but it really limits the explosive playability of the offense.
Yeah, one of the main things I'm going to be looking for, I mean, we say this pretty much every week, is Utah going to be able to generate explosive plays, specifically in the pass game? Because if Utah can stretch this Cincinnati defense, make them cover the entire field, I think Utah's going to be able to move the ball and score.
I totally agree. And since we've kind of discovered Bray, as it were, Bray has taken a prominent role in the offense, we actually have really picked up the explosive run rate. Bray has broken off explosive runs. Wayshawn Parker's broken off explosive runs. I mean, second play of the game versus Colorado, Bert Ficklin has a 63-yard run. So, I mean, we're kind of making up for it in the aggregate. It would be nice to be more balanced. But, if we're getting production, then, hopefully that carries over to Cincinnati.
Yeah, kind of on that note, if you're a Cincinnati fan watching this, maybe trying to learn who Utah's best players are, watch out for Daniel Bray, Wayshawn Parker, JJ Buchanan. Those are three players that I would keep an eye on to potentially have a big day. They should at least be getting targeted a decent amount this game. And yeah, all of them are just such explosive players when they get the ball.
Anything else on Utah's offense versus Cincinnati's defense?
The only thing I want to touch on is Dampier's running ability if he's fully healthy. It seems like he should be pretty close to fully healthy. I wouldn't expect him to be super hampered or anything. Definitely not as bad as the Texas Tech game, I would assume.
Yeah, because in the Texas Tech game, he could not move around, and it really, really limited the offense.
Yeah, reports are coming in that Dampier has been practicing fully. The week leading up to the Texas Tech game, apparently he didn't really practice at all. So if that can kind of tell you, if you read the tea leaves, his health status.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, having a week off, Dampier mentioned in the interview, this is his first ever game missed due to injury, which is interesting when you think about that. Yeah, ultimately, as far as Utah's offense goes, I think that they should be able to score on Cincinnati. Like, it's not going to look like Colorado. I mean, that first half was a generational blowout.
Yeah, that's not going to happen maybe ever again.
Yeah, I mean, even versus FCS teams, it's tough to do.
43-0 at half is like, yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, we settled for field goals too, is like the thing. Like, it could have been 50. Like, yeah, but I think Utah has a pretty nice advantage there, especially playing at home, under the lights in front of the crowd. Okay, let's move into Cincinnati's offense versus Utah's defense. Just like I think Utah's offense can hurt Cincinnati's defense, I think the reverse is also true. I think Cincinnati's offense is really the strength of their team. Number 6 in offensive success rate in the country. They've just been wildly elite at everything. Number 8 EPA drop back, and 2nd in the rush. They actually are outperforming us in success rate rushing, which is tough to say, down to down. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty impressed by their offense. I think they're dynamic everywhere.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I've been watching a lot of the Cincinnati highlights, full game replays. The first thing that stood out to me is how high of a level Baron Morton is playing at.
You mean Sorsby?
Yeah, sorry. Brendan Sorsby. I don't know why I always say Morton. I wrote in my notes, I am looking at right now, Morton. But yeah, Sorsby, the first thing that jumped out at me was just how comfortable he looks reading the field. Like, this dude he's not only running extremely well, he's passing extremely well. Some of the first highlights I saw, he looks downfield, 1 or 2 reads aren't open. He hits the underneath route, like on that little slant for 20 yards, they catch and run. Like, that's dangerous to have a QB that's in command of the offense, executing cleanly. That was one of the first things that jumped out to me.
It really feels almost like Rising-ish in a sense, where it feels like
I totally agree with that, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, where it feels like the offense is being elevated by him. And since they have someone that can just execute at such a high level, like it makes everything else easier. Like he actually does really remind me of Rising in that like processing way.
Yeah. Now that you bring it up, I totally see that. It's just a guy, he's making the right decisions and he can hurt you bad with his legs when you give him the opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that I think we've touched on a little earlier is the early down success. Cincinnati's offense in the early downs is 7th best in the country. Utah's defense on early downs is 8th best at defending those early downs. I think that is the pivotal matchup here. If Cincinnati is, having success on those early downs, it's just going to set up everything they do, whether that's the play action, whether that's the Sorsby scramble, whether that's like the interior run game against maybe some light DTs for Utah. To me, that is the whole pivot point of, Cincinnati's offense versus Utah's defense.
Yeah, Cincinnati's offensive line has looked awesome through these first 8 weeks of the season. I will say with a caveat, though, I don't think they've played a defensive front near as talented as Utah's yet, or have been subjected to some of the blitzes, some of the things that I'm sure Morgan Scalley is going to dial up for this game. So that's going to be something I'm for sure keeping an eye on. And something related to that, obviously, is the run game with the running backs. So we've gotten the reports, Evan Pryor, their best running back, is not going to be playing this game, which he's a really, really good player. So if you're a Utah fan, you're probably a bit relieved. But Tawi Walker as well as Brendan Sorsby, both are still serious running threats. So I don't think that they're not going to be able to run now or something. You're still going to have to account for those two players.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that this is like exactly the type of team that I feel like has been able to run on Utah in the past, is the ones with multiple quality running backs, like a good offensive line and like a QB that can scramble and do designed runs. I mean, going back to what you said, I mean, I was honestly shocked watching that Cincinnati versus Iowa State game a few weeks back. The holes that were opening because of that Cincinnati offensive line. Like the dude was like at the line of scrimmage and there was no defender within like 3 or 4 yards of him. Like it was unreal. Like it was some of the best blocking and like scheme that I've ever seen.
The pass blocking as well, not just run. The pass blocking has been great when I watch too.
Yeah, and like maybe Iowa State just sucks, but like to do that to any P4 team, I think is incredibly impressive. Like that was a dominant performance.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, one more thing I want to think about. Everyone knows Utah plays a ton of man coverage. Are their receivers good enough to beat that man coverage that Utah's going to play? They did go into the portal and get a couple quality wide receivers added to the roster, but Utah's secondary has looked really good, especially in the past few weeks. So that's a matchup I'm going to be really interested in, because if Utah's able to sit in that single high press man, kind of crowd them on the line of scrimmage, stop the run, make Sorsby throw into tight windows, I think that's kind of the recipe for Utah to win this game and have a good game defensively. But if these receivers, if they're just too good, we can't cover them, man, I think Cincinnati's going to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, I totally agree that is a huge part of this. Sorsby has been the #1 QB against zone coverage in the country this year, according to PFF. He's just absolutely torn it up, which, I mean, maybe it's a good thing that Utah plays man. Like, he's still been elite and great against man. I mean, he's been great at everything. He's had an awesome year. But maybe not quite as elite. Like, I do think that with Richie going down and then Benny moving to safety, like, we've really have almost no weaknesses in the back end. Like, we've allowed Benny to be like kind of that guy in the box, and then Teo to do what he does best in coverage. And I honestly, like, no one has really passed on us, like, since that time. Like, not effectively, like, a little bit.
It's worked out extremely well.
Yeah, and so, like, maybe Cincinnati's the first. I mean, I think it's very possible. Like, with their passing success rate being in the top 10 and Sorsby kind of operating at such a high level, like, this is the ultimate test. But, like, if Utah holds it up against this, like, there's not many people I would say could, like, beat us downfield.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Anything else on Utah's defense versus Cincinnati's offense?
I mean, as always with a rushing quarterback, I think stopping the scramble will be interesting. You know, the defensive line needs to make sure to stay very gap and assignment sound, even on pass rush. That's something that Morgan Scalley's talked about in interviews, where he's saying, hey, you know, we have run blitzes and we have pass blitzes. Sometimes even when they're passing, these run blitzes, getting more guys up the middle, more guys filling up those gaps can be effective against a running quarterback. And so that's something that I would look out for.
Yeah, I think they did an excellent job of that versus Colorado. We played way more aggressive, especially blitzing, than we really have. I feel like a lot of our blitzes before this like went around the outside. Like they'd line up, John Hall or like Lander outside and they'd come outside the tackle, but they were coming right up the middle,
Yeah.
like you were saying, like run blitz. But the thing that was so good is, like you said, they were keeping their lane. Salter is a pretty good running quarterback.
Yeah.
Like he tried to escape and there was just nowhere for him
I
to
think
go
he only had
because everyone was
one or two runs the entire game.
Yeah, not and the only he had like a 30-yard run in the second half, and then that was really it.
Yeah.
I mean,
He got out one time out of blitzing like pretty much every snap.
Yeah, like I think that we had this problem, especially early in the year versus like Nico at UCLA. Our DNs got way too deep, and Nico just went right up the middle, and just escaped. But they did such a good job for Salter. So I mean, they're gonna have to keep that up. Okay. Do you have an X factor for Utah versus Cincinnati? What do you think this game hinges on?
I think the X factor in this game. Let me think about it. You go first. Let me think about it.
I kind of already mentioned mine earlier, but it's going to be early down success rate. I think both of these teams, especially Cincinnati's offense versus Utah's defense, have been so good on the early downs and have put their opponents in a bad position. I think whichever team holds up better is going to have a great chance to win. I think that Cincinnati's going to have to score because I do believe Utah is going to score on Cincinnati's defense. But, whether Cincinnati's offense can operate in that hostile environment against the best defense they've played, it'll come down to those early downs for me.
I'm going to go a classic with Utah. I'm just going to go yards per carry for either team because I think that stat tells so much because if, say, Utah's getting pressure on Baron Morton and getting sacks, that cuts into the yards per carry. If Utah's defense is playing well, shutting down the run, making them one-dimensional, I think that's a really good game plan for Utah. And then obviously, pretty much every game that Utah's been able to run effectively this year, they've blown out the other team. So I think yards per carry is just such an X factor here for this game with two really good rushing attacks.
Yeah, it is interesting that Utah hasn't won a close game in a long time.
It's very strange.
It's like what we do works or it doesn't, and we lose a close game. We haven't been blown out in a while. I mean, Texas Tech, but it was mostly at the end. I would say that was a closer game than the final score.
It was much closer.
But I mean, it either works and we blow them out, or it doesn't.
Or we lose in a close game. So
I mean, I feel like this could be one where maybe we break that because I think that both of these offense, they match up so well with the defenses they're playing against. I think Utah's a little bit better than Cincinnati's in that way, but I don't know. I mean, this offense is elite. I'm not sure anybody can completely shut them down.
Yeah, they have a lot of athletes. Ohio is a good recruiting ground. Even if some of these guys might not be jumping off the page in terms of their star rankings, these guys are athletes. They have guys out there that can run.
Yeah. And I feel never underestimate the really good quarterback. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into predictions. I can go first here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that this is a high scoring game. I think that Cincinnati being able to create more explosive plays than Utah and just having a good offense in general will allow them to score more against Utah than I think people are expecting, at least Utah fans are expecting. But on the flip side, I also think Utah is going to be able to run the ball and Cincinnati is going to have a tough time getting off the field because Utah is going to be so good running on early downs. I've got a high scoring game here. I'm going to go Utah 42, Cincinnati 28. So Utah, comfortable win. They cover the spread, but Cincinnati is going to put up 4 touchdowns. And maybe this is a 1-score game until Utah pulls away late, 35-28, and then they get the 1 score in the fourth quarter to kind of finish the game. That's kind of what I'm envisioning.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to keep it consistent with Utah's tendency of either losing close or blowing them out. I'm going to go 42-10. Utah wins this game, I think.
Wow. 10 would be, that defensive performance would be unreal.
I think why I'm predicting that, I don't think Cincinnati's faced an above average defense yet this entire year. I kind of believe in the theory Utah will be the only team they've faced so far that will win the line of scrimmage decisively, and it will just throw a wrench completely into their entire offense.
I could see that because even against Nebraska, like Sorsby,
their lines of scrimmage
yards,
suck.
Right?
Nebraska's lines of scrimmage are worse than Colorado.
I don't know. I don't
They're
think I would
very
go that
similar.
far.
They're terrible.
I don't think so, man. But I mean, it just depends on how much they've grown since the Nebraska game. Which I mean, it's been 7 games.
They've definitely gotten better since the Nebraska game.
Yeah, and like I mean, less than 100 yards passing for Sorsby, but I mean, he kept him alive with his legs in that game. I remember watching that whole game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting one. It's so interesting because no one would have pegged this as a college game day.
Yeah. Well, everyone would be thinking Arizona State, Iowa State is this week, conference championship rematch from last year, but both of those teams are unranked.
Yeah, well, people would have thought Penn State, Ohio State this week.
And somehow that game is a trash game. Yeah, it's not even a good game.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I think I like what I've seen from Cincinnati. Like, I respect them as a program. Like, they made the playoff as a G5.
Oh, yeah,
like, that's
for sure.
impressive.
I will say, side note, elite ball knowledge, I think Penn State beats Ohio State on Saturday.
Nah.
Put the house on Penn State, boys.
Nah, bro. There's no chance. Ohio State's winning easy.